Okay, so I don't have a gavel. Calling the meeting to order. First, I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I know we have a packed agenda, and I'll just come out with it. I did restore the original hours of the meeting back, so you will see that we end at 8:30, but you are welcome to leave at any time. But I'd like if you stay the whole time, quite frankly. I'm going to do some introductions. We have headsets available in the back for Spanish interpretation. Miss Yvonne, if you'd like to come up here really quickly and just repeat the message in Spanish, please. And I'd also ask if you could help if there's anyone on Zoom that needs interpretation services on how to do that. A little sensitive. A little sensitive. Perfect. Thank you.
Hola, me llamo Ivonne Quintero Keñachi. Estoy aquí para interpretar de inglés a español. Si ocupan un audífono, por favor no duden ir atrás y se los proporcionaré. Cualquier persona que esté en Zoom, por favor escojan el lenguaje, el símbolo del mundo hacia abajo de la pantalla y escojan su lenguaje preferido. In English, my name is Yvonne Quintero Keñachi. Anybody that needs interpretation, please do not hesitate to go to the back and ask for an equipment. Anybody on Zoom that needs interpretation, please observe the globe symbol at the bottom of your screen. Choose that symbol and choose the appropriate language. Thank you.
Okay, and next I did our recognition of everyone. Thank you again for being here tonight. And then I'll invite our board member, Vice Chair Francisco Figueroa to invite for membership.
Good evening, everybody. Bienvenidos a todos. Les invitamos para que llenen la forma de membresía del Westside Community Council y cualquier donación es bienvenida. Welcome everybody. So I'm inviting everybody to fill it up. The membership form is in the table in the corner, and any donation is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Okay, so we'll move along to our standing reports. First up, we have the Patrol Watch Report. Commander Hurd is not here today, but on her behalf, we have Corporal Jackson.
Thank you very much. How are you guys doing today? It's a privilege to come speak with you today. My name is Corporal Eric Jackson. I've been a police officer over 20 years, and I've had the privilege of serving the city of Ventura for over 15 years now. I want to go over a few crime stats, but before I do that, I want to let you guys know about some programs that we have that may be of interest to you guys and some other information that some of you may or may not know. First of all, our city is comprised of different districts. Each district has its own commander. Currently, you are guys in District 1. Commander Sarah Hurd is your commander. If you guys have any issues, problems, complaints, you'll see this card over on the table. You can pick it up. It'll have her information on there. As well as having district commanders, we also have what we call beat coordinators. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Currently, I'm a coordinator for Beat 4 on the other side. I wish I was Beat 1. This has been one of my favorite places to work throughout the years. I've been assigned to this beat in this area for years. For a long time, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Sal Flores, but myself and Officer Henderson used to work with the police activities boxing league over at the park. That gave us an opportunity to meet a lot of kids and families and build a lot of relationships. And over the years, we've seen these kids grow and a lot of them become very successful. That's been one of the most enjoyable parts of my job. But currently, your beat coordinator is Corporal Tyler Bevan. Now, you'll have information on here to email him. It's beat coordinator, beat1 coordinator at venturapd.com. Now, if any of you guys are having any issues, such as ongoing problems with a vagrant motorhome parking in your area, or crowds of people congregating at night having large parties constantly, noise complaints that just don't seem to stop no matter how much you call. These are quality of life issues that these coordinators are here to help you address. So once you email these beat coordinators, what we do is we get together with all the other units that work in your beats. Now you have an A watch unit, which is your day watch. You have a mid watch unit and a graveyard unit. Now the beat coordinator will email and get an action plan together and get everybody on board so that communication is going through from day watch, mid watch, and C watch, which is our graves, to tackle the problem. Because it's not always going to be a daytime problem. It might be a nighttime problem. It might be an all day problem. But if we don't really know what's going on, we can't come up with a plan. And you may call, our communications to make the complaint. There may be times when we're busy, we don't get there. It's frustrating. I understand that. But if it's a serious issue, I really, 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 really need you guys to get in touch with your beat coordinators. They'll sit down, they'll talk to you, they'll call you, whether it's email, however you want to contact them, but we'll come up with a plan of action to tackle this problem. And, sometimes it takes a while to do it, but the more police presence we have in the area, the more enforcement action we can do, the more your quality of life is going to improve. So again, if you have a chance, it's on the table. You'll see this little card with your beat information. So Tyler Bevan, again, is your beat coordinator. Secondly, I would really like to talk to you about something that we currently have going on right now, which is our Community Academy. This is a great program for those of you who may not be really familiar with the ins and outs of police work and your department that is here to serve you guys. Now, this program is really cool because you get to go in, you get to sit down and get lectures from property crimes detectives, narcotics detectives, from sex crimes detectives, SWAT teams, traffic. You get to go to the actual academy at the sheriff's department and go through shoot simulators and driving simulators to see kind of the things that we go through training. You get to go to the air unit, check out the helicopters, and there's just so much information. You get to go to the comm center and talk to the dispatchers and sit down with them and see what a day is like for them. You also get to go on ride-alongs with, different officers throughout, different shifts, depending on what is available for you at the time. And you can get a really good chance to at least meet the people who are out here working with you and ask them questions and get a kind of day in the life. I mean, we've all watched Cops, but that's Hollywood. That's showing you the best, the craziest stuff. Sometimes it's not always that way. Sometimes it's, we go to help people. A lot of times you just see the action part, but you don't get to see the actual help and service that we actually get to do quite often, which is unfortunate. Another very exciting thing, I'm an Explorer advisor. We have just brought back our Explorer program. Now, for those of you with any kids who are interested in becoming law enforcement officers, this is a really great program. These kids get to go through an academy. They get to go out on ride-alongs as often as they want. They get exposure at a young age of discipline, integrity, that just good life lessons. And it's not just about police work that they get to learn. We take them to the fire department, with EMS, with different city services, whether it's the water district and different parts of the city, and see how it all, how everyone's job kind of works together throughout the city. And maybe police officer might not be their thing. Maybe they find some interest in something else they find, throughout this program. So again, you will also see this pamphlet. So if you want to pick one up, get some information, please do so. Another one, I know we do have somebody who's had neighborhood watch here. There's a neighborhood watch pamphlet. This is really important, really helpful to us. Getting together as a community. This is your neighborhood. This is your city. This is your neighborhood. Get together with your neighbors. Try to get one together. This helps us, just in terms of helping you understand what to look for, what to watch out for, and ways to, help us do our job better for you. Sometimes we don't know everything. Sometimes we don't always catch it. So please pick up a pamphlet if you're interested in that. Another very important part, our volunteer program. If any of you are interested and have the time, our volunteers are essential to us. Our volunteers go through an academy as well. They'll go out, you'll see them sometimes in the white minivan that says Volunteers in Policing. They are an immense tool for us because they go out, they take reports, they take traffic reports, burglary reports, different types of reports, which we may not have suspect information on, but at least they can get the report, get service out there and get somebody to your home. It's very rewarding and it's giving back to your community. So if you are interested and do have the time, please take a moment to pick it up, make a call, send an email, and try to get information. Do you guys have any questions about any of those? Yes.
Okay. Question and comment. Thank you, Corporal Jackson. One, could you repeat the beat coordinator one address if we need to get a hold of that person, their name and the email address?
So his name is Tyler Bevan, Bevan. His email is going to be tbevan, Bevan @venturapd.org. Or you can email beat1coordinator@venturapd.org. All this information is also online. If you guys click onto our website.
Okay, and the comment was, I did do the Citizens Academy, which I see some other familiar faces. You could, if you feel not shy, you could raise your hand to say if you did it, because there's a number of representatives here that did do it, and it's a great program, and I recommend it for all of us to do. And be
Thank you.
informed.
You should.
It was really
Absolutely.
good.
Everybody should.
And
It's
then
great.
I do have a question.
Yes.
In the event that there's an accident, a traffic accident, and there's debris, who picks that up?
So typically, if there's a traffic accident, if it's no one's hurt and the vehicles are able to be moved, please do your best to try to pull over to the side. Don't wait there. It's not hard for us to figure out who's at fault. Usually, I know a lot of people want to just stay there and go wait till they see what happened. We can usually do that. So try to get out. If there's a large amount of debris, just stay put, stay in your car. Don't get out. The chances of getting hit, we would rather you just stay in the car. Once the tow truck comes out, the tow truck picks up the car and puts it up. The tow truck drivers, they have a very difficult job. You may not know this, but they're the ones out there sweeping up all the stuff that's left all over the place. Obviously, fire department will come out and put a lot of like fire retardant stuff and chemical spill stuff. I don't know, it's out of my wheelhouse, but the tow truck driver is the one that comes out and cleans everything up.
So in the event that there's kind of a lot of debris, I'm a cyclist, and so it's
Yeah.
just like, it does eventually blow to the sides, and
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there's just someone to call or how that gets picked
Okay,
up.
so if you do happen to see that there is debris that got left, and this could also be from maybe an unreported accident. There are times where people get in accidents, may not have licenses, both get scared and leave. Or they get in an accident and somebody be like, it's beat up anyway, don't worry about it, have a nice day. So if you do see that, just call the non-emergency number and let them know there is debris in the roadway and it's a hazard. And we'll come out to check and see if it's something we can get out the way, or call our streets to come out and clean it out.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Any questions on Zoom? Doesn't look like it. Okay.
Okay, so getting into from April 6th to March 6th to April 2nd, in this area, we had 13 thefts, 5 commercial burglaries, 3 aggravated assaults, 2 thefts, actual burglaries from vehicle. And if you know the difference, a regular theft from a vehicle is going to be an unlocked vehicle, open windows, things like that. An actual burglary of a vehicle is going to be when you have the window smashes and whatnot. So we've had 2, and then 1 residential burglary and 1 robbery, which occurred on the promenade. Again, these are a lot of crimes of opportunity. We have, as you guys are well aware, a lot of vagrants around the area that are alcoholics, they have mental illnesses, and they're drug addicts. These are a lot of crime of opportunities, and a lot of life gets busy. People forget to lock their cars. It's one of the big things we try to remind people. Please lock your cars and keep your valuables out of sight. A majority of these vehicle thefts, when they're breaking the windows out, is because they're running around at night and somebody leaves their car downtown and decides to take an Uber and they use their flashlight and see something, a wallet. We just did that. I just had to take one the other day, and they busted out the window, took the wallet, or they see tools or just a bag that they think might have something in it, and they break it. So, obviously one of the best things for prevention for those is keep your valuables out of sight. Try your best to remember to lock your cars up. And, as far as the promenade, we're doing our best we got the cameras out there, we got patrol out there, but there's times when we have a lot of things going on and we get busy, so we can't always be out there. On that, with the vagrancy being an issue, I do want to let you guys know, as of now, are you guys familiar with our patrol task force? Okay, there are a task force that's set up that deals specifically with vagrancy issues and quality of life in the downtown business area and the avenue in the west end of town. They do also enforce other parts of town, but it's primarily here. You've seen the guys on the bicycles with the red shirts. Those are our park ambassadors. They are a great asset to our patrol task force. They see a lot of things that we might not always see, and they call things in all the time. They're also a good presence that deters a lot of the people from congregating at the parks or in certain areas. If they see them like milling around cars in the parking lot, they come up, people leave. So they're a great tool. But in terms of our patrol task force, I have some really good news is that we are expanding the unit. They just added a couple additional officers, and they're now going to expand the time that they're out. It used to be Monday through Friday, a split group would come out, and predominantly they would come out in the mornings to get the, the vagrants out of in front of the stores and kind of get them off from their illegal lodging and hit it, go out, hit the parks and get them with open containers and their drugs. Now they're going to have a full schedule all week long. So they're going to be out here every day, which I think is going to see a huge improvement. And just looking at the actual calls for service, looking back at 2020, we had 11,456 calls for service specifically related to vagrant calls, okay? Our patrol task force started working on things. The following year in 2021, we had 8,914 calls for service. That was a pretty dramatic drop in it. Earlier this year, we had 6,000. There may be a little bit more now, but there was 6,000 calls for service. It's actually reducing. It's actually working. And, with time and again, with the expanded unit, we're hoping to see more progress, and we're hoping that you guys have a better quality of life on this side of town. Any questions regarding the crime stats and the things that are going on? Yes, Liz.
Task force is going to be working every day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
How many hours each day?
So they're going to start varying their hours. I know they were talking about, like I said, where they would be working like during days. And there was at a time when they started fluctuating their hours to throw them off, because a lot of them would be like, oh, we know they work from this hour to this hour. So they would change their hours and shift it. And surprise, we're here at night, and be able to enforce things at night. So Sergeant Vasquez just came in. Sergeant Anselmo, I don't know if you guys have met him, was running the program for years, was very successful. He's been there for some time now, and we just changed it up. So Sergeant Eric Vasquez is now in charge of that unit. We've added Officer Watson and Officer Alston are now in that unit, and it's going to, like I said, expand. Hours will change and things. I think it's going to be a very, very beneficial program now.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I support the police department 100%. My question is, with methadone clinics, how much access do you guys have from someone that's addicted to that specific drug to how they wean off, and how I'm not quite sure how it works.
So usually once a person has the addiction and starts making the steps to get into recovery, they'll go to the clinic and they'll have to go and get their doses of methadone from the clinic specifically. After they've shown that they are continuing to go through the program, at some point, then they get it to take home and continue to use it. I mean, it's a long, rocky road. Addiction's difficult. Some are successful, some are not, but usually under, the care of the doctors and, behavioral health and other people, they do their best to try to get them through it. But it's individually based. Some people, they try, they relapse, they fall, they try to get back up and they keep going. So.
Just because I live right here on the avenue and I shop right here at Vons, and I go take my kids to Little Caesar or Burger King, and you see people that are sick and also people are homeless, and I see numerous times, I don't want to get off subject, but there's a lot of people that are shoplifting and
Yes.
and they get away. I mean, the employees try to do the best they can to do what they can, but these people just walk out with things and there's no police involved.
Yeah, well, we usually get there. We take the reports, we get the videos, and majority of the time, you guys may not know this, but when these reports come through, we do follow up and investigate. We usually can get, most of these businesses all have good surveillance cameras, and once the officer goes and takes a report, they take those photo stills and they're distributed out through the entire department for all the police officers to attempt to identify that person. And we're successful a lot in being able to do that. And then we'll submit warrants for them for the arrests later. But again, there's certain things with, Proposition 47 and some of the other things that occurred that made our job a little difficult, a little more difficult to be able to enforce a lot of things. And with the shortages in the DA, sometimes it's hard to get these cases. They're piled up. And unfortunately, it's a lot of us and the community that have to suffer for it, but we're trying our best. But these are things too that, you shouldn't have to go to pick up a couple pizzas at Little Caesars and be scared and have to have your kids subjected to seeing this kind of stuff. Yeah. But we keep trying. We keep trying. But these are things too, I want you to remember to get a hold of your beat coordinator, and we can try to tackle that problem. If that's specific and important to you, it's going to be important to us. So that's what I'm saying for you guys. Get in touch with your beat coordinators. If you see your officers that are working the beat, go talk to them, let them know what's going on, and don't be afraid to call. Your calls are important. Again, sometimes we get busy, and the most frustrating thing, even for myself, when I've had to call, is waiting and waiting. And I understand other things happen, and I wish we had more officers to be able to take care of these things, but things are going to improve. Be optimistic. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. You mentioned that from 2020 to now that the reports of vagrancy and unhoused people has been going down. What are the efforts that are going in to make that trend down?
So it's the calls for service that are going down. And what that is with the downtown business, the downtown business partners and the Ventura Police Department in the city, one of the really good things that they're doing, are you guys familiar with the reunification program? Okay. With our patrol task force, what they're doing now is we've noticed that there are a lot of vagrants that are coming in that are from other parts of the country. And they just kind of, whether it's train hopping or walk-in or somehow they end up here. And one big problem we have too, I don't know if you're aware of it, obviously with a lot of our social services and jail being in the city, Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks, Fillmore, they bring their people, they're arrested, booked here, and they get out and they sometimes stay. They don't have a way back. So, I mean, that kind of contributes to the amount of people we have here. But what they're doing now is they're having conversations and trying to, have more social outreach to find out to say, hey, what brought you here? Where are you from? Okay, you're from Arkansas. Who do you have there? Do you have family there? And they say, yes, I have a cousin and a mother there, but, I've been out here for years. I came from LA. I've had a, addiction problem and I wish I could get home, but I can't. They'll take this person and they'll find a way to get, first of all, in contact with their family to ensure that, hey, this person's ready to come home. And if you're willing to accept them and get them there, we'll get them a bus ride. We'll get them a ticket. We'll get them on Amtrak. And we'll get them home. So that is it's a wonderful program because it's gotten a lot of people who've been displaced who need the support from their family, not people they meet on the streets. So they're able to get them out of Ventura to a support place where they need to be and get help. That's one thing that reduces the call. The second thing is, again, we didn't have a patrol task force before. Instead, we just had our beat units that would work out here. And for a lot of them, not only do we have calls, traffic accidents, we have, stolen cars we're chasing, we have neighbor disputes. They didn't always have the time to go deal with, the group of people getting drunk at Mission Park. They just didn't have the time. They could see it, and it's frustrating because you guys would be like, why are they driving by this? But they're on their way to a call. With the patrol task force, their actual job is to go and deal with that, to go up to the park, to go talk to those people, to issue citations. If they're too intoxicated, they'll take them to jail. If they can find a reunification and get them to family, they get them to family. So that program in itself, with the reunification, with the patrol task force, those are all things in addition to the park ambassadors and the Red Jackets. They've all helped reduce the calls for service. So I'm really proud of the program. It's something that's different that we tried, and I think you can see the numbers. Anybody else? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to get into is we have absolutely. Is that better? I got too much paperwork here. I'm going to end up dropping it. Okay, so one good thing you guys have here too that's going to follow up with a lot more information. Amy is here and she's going to be talking about some fentanyl and opioid problems and some programs that are coming up. Fentanyl is a problem. For years, our biggest issues out here were methamphetamine and heroin. Heroin was a really, really abused drug out here. But a few years back, fentanyl, are you guys familiar with fentanyl? I think everybody should be at this point. It's a very strong drug, 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin, depending on the purity and where it's made. It's 100 times stronger than morphine, and it takes very little for someone to have an overdose. And if you're familiar with the way that opiates work, you build a tolerance as you go. And a lot of people will start at a certain point, and it'll take more and more of the drug to get them feeling more of that high. And at some point, they, let's just say, for example, get arrested, go to jail. They're in jail for 3-4 days. They go through withdrawals, which are pretty terrible, but they come off of it. Or they decide, hey, I'm done with it. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to try to get clean. So they go through their withdrawals. They're back to normal. But then life happens. Happens to everybody. There's a certain trigger. There's a bad day. There's a breakup. There's a fight. There's a death in the family. There's just a really bad day. Things happen and they relapse. Well, rather than starting back at zero, they're so used to using, say, a certain amount that they go back to that amount that they were already tolerant to, and their body isn't ready for it. So they'll take it, they'll use it, and they'll overdose. Obviously, naloxone, Narcan, are you guys familiar with that? This drug is in every patrol car. All our EMS has it. It has saved a lot of lives. Now, there's a lot of people, vagrants out here who are addicted to it, but this hits all walks of life. People from the top of these hills and the nice houses to the people in the projects that are all abusing different types of drugs and alcohol. It's life. It hits everybody. I've been doing this 20 years. I've seen it all from all spectrums of life. And this is an important drug that is out there that is saving lives, period. One really good thing in news, I don't know if you guys have been following this, is that it has now been FDA approved to be sold over the counter. Now, we may not all, use fentanyl, but we all have things in the medicine cabinet in case somebody gets a bee sting or somebody gets a burn or we need a Band-Aid. The reality is we all have, I don't know if we all do, but we have kids, teenagers. Teenagers sometimes make mistakes. And right now, fentanyl isn't just being sold as fentanyl. There are kids who are into the party scene. You got teenagers who want to go to raves and use ecstasy and things like that. Right now, a lot of the cartels are mixing the MDA with the fentanyl and precedent pills because the fentanyl is so easy to make and cheap, and they can just sell it that way. A lot of kids like partying with cocaine. Okay, it's been around forever. They're actually selling cocaine, which is very similar in its appearance, but it's fentanyl. So your normal everyday kid who's just gotten that moment where I'm in that party mode or whatever, comes across a kid who says, hey, I got some coke, and they do a line, and your normal kid just out partying, making a bad mistake one night, ends up ODing on fentanyl. Wouldn't you be happy to know that if your kid did make that mistake, that you could run to the bathroom cabinet and save his life? It's just something to me that I think, it's a good step. And obviously, the worst part about it is addiction sucks. Drugs are dangerous, but they are here, and it's a reality we all have to deal with. So as of March 29th, that was approved by the FDA. So that will be out and about. And like I said, each patrol officer, we all have them on our cars. We're usually first on scene when the overdoses happen. Every overdose that is reported, now there are a number that aren't, because a lot of the people that are addicted to it also are given Narcan just in case these things happen. So there are, a fraction or so of these overdoses that do occur, they take care of themselves or their friends and they don't report it. Now, every actual reported overdose, whether it be the person calling to say, my friend's overdosed, or I just came in and they're overdosed in the bedroom, or you get the person driving by going, that guy is slumped over in the car, it looks like something's wrong, and we get there, we can usually give them the Narcan and bring them back to life. For some, it's a good wake-up call. They do end up going, whoa, I almost died, and try to get treatment. So we do go. Our narcotics unit, which I just came out of, is we have caseloads of overdose investigations where we try to go after the person that provided it and get them for sales and furnishing. It is a lengthy process. We usually have to go through phones, download phones. People aren't always cooperative and wanting to give up the people that do it, but we do have ways and means of investigating it and coming through with successful cases. There are a number of fatal overdoses as well. It does happen. But like I said, we're doing the best we can with it. We had 89 overdoses last year. Some of those were brought in to VCMC from other parts of the county. But I think in Ventura alone, we had 50 last year. And we have several a month. I go to them quite often. So Amy's going to give us a lot more information here. But one thing I do also want to bring up that I'm really looking forward to is we have our narcotics unit here for the Ventura Police Department. Ventura County has a multi-jurisdictional enforcement team that was typically set up for all narcotics. But they put together a new team called Focus, correct, Amy? And one of our detectives, Detective Brian Palmer, who is a very experienced detective, great cop, he is going to be representing the Ventura Police Department in this unit with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. And their whole target is going to be going after fentanyl distributors and dealers. And the Sheriff's Department has a lot of tools. It's a larger agency, and they have the ability to, go out of the county to get the people that are bringing it into the county and into our city. So with that, like I said, she's going to have a lot more information. Do you guys have any questions for me regarding that?
Hello, thank you for your service. My thing where I'm living does have a lot of vagrants come around. So I used to carry pepper spray, and unfortunately, a sports arena took it away from me.
Okay.
Sports arenas, entering, you can't carry pepper spray in. So what is it legally that we can carry to protect ourselves, self-defense?
Well, there are a number of different options. Let's say from the top to the bottom, if you are proficient and trained and comfortable, applying for a concealed weapons permit is always a good idea if that's your thing. You never know what's going to happen, and it's always good to have one. Better to have one and not need it than need it and not have it. But that, again, isn't something for everybody. Some people are afraid of guns. They don't want to carry guns, and it's a huge responsibility. And it's something that you definitely need to train constantly on to be proficient. You don't want to hurt somebody else. You don't want to lose it, and you don't want the perpetrator to get a hold of it. So it definitely takes a certain mindset, training, and ability to be able to take it to that level. Secondly, obviously, you have different types of pepper spray firearms that you can look up online that will actually, it's like a gun, but it will shoot pepper spray cartridges out at a distance that you can help. You can also buy pepper spray containers that help. But one thing you do have to remember, this is the avenue, it gets windy. So you got to be quick thinking about the wind and how it'll affect you, because we carry it, we use it. There have been times where I've had to use it, and there's never been a time where I've used it where it hasn't affected me myself. And part of our training going through the academy is that we get pepper sprayed with it, and we have to go through a scenario of arresting and controlling somebody while not being able to see or breathe. So it can affect you. So it's something that you really need to think about your environment and things around you. Obviously, there are tasers that civilians can buy. Those, again, take training and they take knowledge on how to use them. They are effective sometimes, but depending on clothing and where the darts hit, sometimes they don't work. A really good big dog is also another good, having dogs are great. I was a canine officer for 5 years, and I'll tell you what, I never felt safer in my life. I felt like I didn't even need a gun when I had that dog. They're great. Dogs are great companions. Dog, especially trained dogs, are a great deterrent. Most people will think twice. But probably one of the best things you could do on the lower level of it all, you carry knives and anything else, but is being vigilant. People are looking for people to victimize that aren't paying attention. If you're knee deep in your phone, walking around, not paying attention, you got your purse hanging off, you're an easy target for them to run up right behind you, yank that thing off and run the other way. They can come up on your bicycle. You got to be vigilant. You got to always be looking around. If they see you seeing them, if they see you watching them, they're going to get a little paranoid and think twice. Another thing too, depending on how agile you want to be, learn to box, get some jujitsu, get some self-defense training. That's always another good option. There are plenty of great places to train around here and learn, and always strength in numbers. Don't be by yourself. Be with other people. So, if something happens, somebody can always call and get by, and choose where you're at, when you're at. And, you guys, you're familiar with the area, you live in the area, there's certain places you probably don't want to be at certain times. So I hope that answers your question. Liz? Yes, ma'am.
Pointed out to you by someone here that there's a whole lot of activity going on in this border. But very little like
Yes. Okay, so that, if you see, that's going to be the area around the Bond Shopping Center out in this area. Yeah. Yes. 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 Well, I will get in touch with our crime analysis and just confirm that either maybe those were before March 6th. Recently? Okay, well, that should be in here. I'll look into that to find out, but definitely. No, it's a good question. Yeah.
What's really happening there.
Absolutely. And if this is an issue going on, this is again one of those things that I really recommend that whoever is in that area and those issues are happening, get a hold of the beat one coordinator, let them know. Because one thing we have these, what we call focus calls. So let's say if I'm your beat one coordinator and I'm getting calls and reports from neighbors on, say, the avenue in Seneca, that there's been a lot of people getting stuff stolen from the patios and car break-ins. What we would do is throughout the day, set up preempted calls that we call focus calls, and they'll dispatch an officer to be out in that area. And we did a study a while back that showed that by having an officer just in that area for 15 minutes, curbed the amount of criminal activity for several hours. So again, the more they see us out there, the less they're going to want to be out in that area. And again, if we don't know, if we're not getting this, and I apologize if those stats aren't on here, I will definitely find out. But beat one coordinator, let them know so we can put an action plan together.
Thank you very much.
Like California and that area. The vagrant, the people that are dumpster diving after dark.
So like I said, now with the expanded patrol task force, that we're going to start tackling that stuff at the later hours. And this is something, again, that beat one coordinator at these hours, we're having people, you noticing, especially if it's a specific time. That's really easy for us to get those focus calls put together and get out there and handle that. I know depending on, our Thursday, Fridays and Saturdays, downtown in that area get, inundated with people out there drinking and partying. So the beat units get pretty busy down there. But if we can get those focus calls in there, we can get them out there in those spots to try to at least deter that from happening. All right, thank you guys very much. And please, again, if you get a chance, grab some of that literature that's over there. Find some Kids for Explorers, become a volunteer, go to the community academy, please. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you.
All righty. Okay, so now we're going to move along to our City of Ventura updates. Councilmember Campos, would you like to give your first update? And we'll have our communication chair, Marco Cuevas, give the rest.
Are you afraid of me now, Marco? You're going to go after me this time. Huh? Actually, Officer Jackson, Corporal Jackson really did such a good job. It limits what I have to say tonight. There are a few things though that we want everybody in the city to understand, but especially West Ventura, because there was a lot of talk tonight about the increase in the vagrancy on the avenue and also the increase in unsheltered families in the avenue who are not vagrants. The parents are working, the kids are in school, but living in cars, which is a big problem. So the city has been working with the housing authority and purchased or is in the process of purchasing La Quinta Inn, which is over on Johnson Drive. It's being refurbished to provide 136 studio apartments for people who have gone through the shelter system or people who are newly homeless or threatened with homelessness, and also the higher functioning homeless people in all of the city. It's not just for the avenue. And it'll probably be September before they start the refurbishing because of the process of obtaining grant monies and getting state infusion of processes. But I think that's a very good start in our city because for several years, the issue of homelessness was kind of swept under the rug. And this past year, a lot of us have seen our neighbors pushed out, not because they're addicts or criminals or having problems, but because the landlords want more rent. So we're working hard to find solutions for this. So the city will be having a meeting on April 12th for developers to talk about density bonuses and all the things that they can get to make their building easier if they're willing to provide for people with the lowest income levels. So the city passed an inclusionary housing ordinance, but the bottom end of it is so high that people who are entry-level jobs at the county cannot afford to live in the city of Ventura in inclusionary housing. So we've got the density bonuses to try and give incentives to developers or other builders to help to alleviate the problem of families with children being put on the street. Let's see. At Bell Arts on the 15th of April, which is this month in a couple of weeks, there's a program called Aspire to Inspire, which is about getting the children from our neighborhoods involved in art programs and art projects. And they're doing a fundraiser, but if you come from the community, you'll be able to participate here at Bell Arts. And I think it starts at 6 p.m. I'm sorry, I didn't write down the time when I got the info. Anything else I'll leave for Marco to tell you because he just loves talking to you about the city. Yes, question? Wait.
This is for the La Quinta program. Is there a priority list or waiting list, or do they have to go through a certain channel to kind of get prepared for September? Like, is it one stop or, you know?
That project will be done through the Ventura County Housing Continuum of Care. There's 4 different types of people who will be allowed to move in. Those at highest risk of homelessness who have children. Those who are already homeless but who are not addicted and are high functioning. There's a lot of people who we don't see on the street that are homeless who are working a full-time job, but it's not enough to afford rent. And then people who have already been in the 55-bed shelter that we have and have proven themselves responsible. And people who are, there's a small amount because we're under state rules to get the money. There's I think 15% must come out of the Caltrans properties, people who've been living in the Caltrans properties. And the police task force is reaching out to them now to try and get them into the shelter and get them into programs so that they can actually live there successfully.
Awesome.
The La Quinta will also have not full-time, but I think 15 hours a day of mental health support, job support, medical outreach, and case management. Yes.
Por ejemplo, tenemos ahorita 12 apartamentos que van a ser también desalojadas las familias. Si te puedo dar el nombre de las familias, son gente trabajadora y ya está el sign ahí de la ciudad que van a ser desalojados. El 27 de abril va a haber una junta, pero sí me gustaría darte la información para si no encuentran un lugar pronto, si pueden ellos poder tener lugar ahí donde tú estás indicando.
Liz, we have another list of working people that are already in the process of being evicted. There's a sign that was posted by the city, and that process has already started. I know about this meeting, but prior to this meeting, I would like to know if I can give you their information So if they can't find a place, hopefully it's possible they can find a place here where you're indicating.
Okay,
Okay.
it'll take time to build that and refurbish it. However, if you give me the list, I will communicate with community development, because the community development department finally, after the problems we had on Center Street last year, it has begun setting up outreach and protections for tenants. They're not quite codified yet into the city regulation. And so we can't just put them inside right away because we don't have the space. But we're on the way to doing that. In the meantime, is this the same family that we did outreach with when Supervisor Levere was here, or this is additional families? It's additional families, right?
No, son nuevas. Son nuevas
It's new, it's a
familias.
new one.
Y son 12 apartamentos que yo supongo que van a ser en abril, es la junta, el 27 de abril. Supongo que les tienen que dar 60 días más, entonces serían 3 meses más. Abril, mayo, sería como por julio que ellos tendrían que salir.
Actually, this is a whole new group of people. It's 12 families. And they're having a meeting about this on the 27th of April. Well, I presume they will be officially given 60 days, which will be a total of 3 months. And right around July is when they'll absolutely have to be evicted and vacate the premises.
Okay, the tenant protections that we have include, I believe, 2 months of rent returned, or they don't have to pay for these last 2 months. So they should make sure that they understand that when they have the meeting and demand that they receive that return of rent or free rent or the money that has to be given. It's part of the city regulation. I don't know if I can be at that meeting until I see my calendar, but I'll make sure that they all have the information. We unfortunately have another one on Riverside Drive that was just purchased by Zach Freling. And we expect that will be also the same kind of eviction. So we really need to be vigilant and watch out and help our neighbors as much as we can.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes. Is that it? Marco?
Yeah, I think you sum that up, and I do the joy. I mean, dang, between following the police report and Liz's report, I mean, whew, I feel like they just scheduled me after for a complete mood shift. Just we're an hour in, let's take a deep breath really quick. Need that a little more. So we have some updates from the city of Ventura, just some news. First bullet point here, we have a summer activity guide. I think I shared this last month. You guys probably got this in the mail. Helen, go ahead and hit that next tab. So if you go on the city's website, it's not too late to sign up for summer activities for both yourself and or your kids. I know when I was younger, I signed up for things like swimming, golf lessons. I mean, some really fun activities. Next tab. So when you click on this, you'll get a link to the PDF. And then go ahead and hit the arrow to the next page. I'll just stick on that table of contents. So over here on the right, you'll see all the different activities divided up into different things like aquatics, youth, adult, and senior. So you got sports classes, dance classes, other events, yoga classes, martial arts, golf lessons, golf courses and classes, tennis courts, and classes, just a whole wide array of things to do in the city. How many of you guys have taken part in one of these lessons or classes that the city has offered or would be interested this summer, possibly? Tons of things to do here in the city. I might have to go back and take some golf lessons because oof. So yeah, go ahead and check that out on the city's website. Go back to the main. Yep, there we go. So second bullet point, we have coffee with a cop. I think our police officer left. I was going to see if he had more information on this, but if you go onto the next tab, basically, City of Ventura's police department and autism. Please hold. And the Autism Society of Ventura County are having this coffee conversation and fundraiser. So, just an opportunity to go and talk in an informal environment with your police officers, as well as help support this cause. So you can buy one of these shirts that you see on the city's website, and it all goes to Autism Society for Ventura County. It's happening on April, oh, that font is small. April 19th in the morning from 8 to 9:30. So hopefully you guys can make it out there for that and, just support a good cause. Next. Yeah, we'll just do it on the tab. I don't have to go back to the slide. So the City of Ventura would like to announce that they have openings in various boards, commissions, and committees. So if you would like to join a board, such as the ones you see listed here, Mobile Home Rent Review Board, Arts and Culture Commission, Water Commission, etc. Some require some qualifications, but others, as long as you're a registered voter in the City of Ventura, resident here, then you can apply. And the Appointments Recommendation Committee, which is a subcommittee of the City Council, will interview you and possibly get you on one of these boards. I myself will make a quick plug. During the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, that summer, I saw an opening for Measure O, the Citizens Oversight Committee, for our half-cent sales tax. I currently serve, actually now I'm chair of that committee.
Will I need to show up?
Please hold. What happened there? Okay, are we back? All right. As you can see, we're still working out some of the audio things, but I believe we have improved it with our new mixer that we bought courtesy of our generous donation. But I'm going to move back this way so I don't have to mess with the camera too much. Still a work in progress, but that's a community council update. Back to the City of Ventura. Yeah, if you feel like you want to serve your city in a bigger capacity, check out one of these positions. Next tab. All right, so this, had no idea about this. Another thing, so actually really quick, back to the cop, April is Autism Awareness Month, so that's why they do that. And then another April challenge is this Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. So I was taking a quick look at this earlier, and it's interesting. So basically cities are competing with each other, and you actually compete with cities of similar size. So we'd probably be competing with that 100 to 300,000 range. All right, a little tough, but basically the idea is to pledge that you're going to conserve water. Yes, I know we had a whole bunch of rain. All right, that helps, but they're still doing this challenge nonetheless, and it's important that we stick to what we've been doing. So basically, if you take this 4-step conservation pledge, then they'll update the city standings, and we have a chance to win prizes. Looking $50,000 in prizes to nearly 300 residents in U.S. cities were awarded last year, and care about none of that. Just the last second to last sentence here I was reading. You do it for the children, because one school in each winning city will receive 100 pair of eyeglasses. So I highly encourage you to go on the city's website and sign up to do this pledge. Does anyone have any questions on any of the city updates? Yes. Sure, that was a lot of information thrown at you.
Actually, to conserve water, at my place, what I do is The saying is, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, then flush it down.
Yep, heard that saying too. You don't always have to
Yeah.
flush when you're going number one for sure. Yep.
Yeah, getting back to the Parks and Recreation brochure about the programs. I got mine today. My question is there a Spanish version available? And how would you get one?
I am not sure. I am uninformed on that, but let's see if our council member knows. I believe there should be.
Currently, there is no Spanish version available. Some of us have been fighting to get that done. And while I have the mic, I want to say, we live in a neighborhood where a lot of people don't have access to the internet, so they can't go online to sign up. So if you want to participate in the Parks and Rec classes, you can do that at City Hall, or you can do it with a phone call. If you need applications for any of the city commissions like the Measure O and don't have internet access, you can go to the Avenue Library between 12 and 6, Monday through Thursday, and between 10 and 6 on Saturday they'll print out copies for you. Or you can call or email me and I'll make sure to mail them to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so thank you, Marco and Councilmember Campos for that great update on the city. Next, we have the treasurer's report. So Miss Kaye Zerbes.
Thank you. My name is Kaye Zerbes. I've been a resident here for 66 years. Okay, we have $3,231.55 in our bank account. And then I do believe that we just gave away some.
I'll just roll into our next update. So, or I could save it for later. We are gonna be talking a little bit about some of the work we've been doing for tenants, as was discussed earlier, but I will honor the order of the agenda. And that being said, I'd like to invite our Secretary Board Member, Public Works Liaison Pete Freeman, to provide the report on GPAC.
Evening. So we've met 3 times since we last met here. The GPAC has on 6th, 7th, and 21st of March. We discussed East Side College area and Johnson Drive, and Johnson was a bit complex, so we put that off till April 18th. On the 7th, we discussed the Westside Avenue area here, and pretty much we ended up following the 2020 vision that the WCC came up with. And then we discussed in the downtown on March 21st. So also, since I'm Public Works, if you can do the next slide. We had during the storms, we had some calls to us to contact Public Works for plug drains and things like that. So I thought I'd show you real quick how to get a hold of Public Works through the city. So the website is cityofventura.ca.gov. Next slide, please. Also on the city's website, you can select a language. You can do it in Spanish. There's like 100 languages that you can pick from, but Spanish is one of them. So next slide. So the easiest way I found, back up one. The easiest way I found, because they just changed the website on Friday and I couldn't figure it out, is to just type in Public Works, and you have to type in Public Works. You can't type it in Spanish. I tried, it doesn't work. So you have to type in Public Works there and search. Next slide, Marco. Hello, there we go. And then you'll get this, this window, and the top one should be Public Works. Next slide. Click on the blue Public Works. Next slide. And you get a whole list of phone numbers. So you get the phone numbers for the entire Public Works. And then down below, you've got phone numbers for specific hotlines. So graffiti, pothole, and streetlight outage, which I'll be discussing later. These numbers, and then I just threw that one up there for the pothole hotline. You guys don't need to write these down. If you want to get the numbers from me, or if you don't want to look it up, just catch me after the meeting and I can get all the numbers for you. So that's all I got. Ellen?
Thank you, Pete. And I just want to say for the record, I didn't skip Pete this month like I usually do. But okay, thanks so much for the update. So now we'll move along to old business. First item, we have City Council Interpretation Services update, and that will be provided by Board Member Cuevas.
Yeah, so just a quick update. Last month, the city council voted to extend the pilot program for interpretation services for another 6 months. So yeah, basically we'll see how it goes after that, but basically just fighting to keep interpretation available at city council meetings. So members of our community are able to understand it currently in Spanish. And then also another thing that we found out today, we got that today, that all of the agendas for city council meetings are now translated in Spanish as well. So it's a big win.
Okay, next, I'll ask our board member, Maria Davalos, to help me with this announcement. So if you guys will remember, after our last meeting, our general meeting, we had set up a GoFundMe for tenants who were getting evicted. Since that time, we've done fundraising and we've raised enough money to grant each of those families about $750 to help with their moving expenses. Maria has the checks and we will be distributing the checks as well. And I want to invite Maria, if you have anything you want to say. She's really been a fighter for tenants and we appreciate her.
Sí, buenas tardes. Estuvimos con estas 3 familias que también fueron desalojadas hace 2 meses y ya hoy ellos cumplieron ya los 60 días, entonces ellas tienen que mudarse y nosotros ayudamos para que tuvieran, se ayudaran para el depósito o un pago de renta. Entonces creo que aquí está Anaí y
Thank you to everyone. We wanted to give you an update about the GoFundMe that was set up last month for some of the families being evicted. Their 60 days are completely up. We have some checks to disperse. Some of the families are here. Approximately $750 were raised for all the families in this apartment complex each. Thank you.
Anaí. Es Anaí y su mamá, pero su mamá no está aquí porque está enferma. Estos son para ti. A la señora Claudia. Y es, Claudia. Esto lo hacemos la comunidad del WCC. Estamos siempre al pendiente de todo lo que pasa aquí en nuestra comunidad y estamos a la vez estamos tristes por todo lo que está pasando, pero recuerden que siempre cuentan con nuestro apoyo y siempre estaremos con ustedes.
Yeah, thank you. Bien, gracias. Ms. Davalos mentioned to the families that WCC is here for them. Anything that we can do to help, we'll mobilize and put into action. I'm sorry about everything that you guys are going through. However, we hope that this helps some in the process of being evicted. Thank you.
Y manos unidas. Sí, porque cuando me enteré, ellas hablaron conmigo para darme cuenta de lo que estaban pasando.
And also, we like to recognize another group, Manos Unidas, that Ms. Davalos operates here on the avenue. And it's a group that has really gained the trust of the Spanish community, so much so that they're the ones to first hear of something that is happening. And it is because of that group collaborating with WCC, among others, to then set forth this fundraiser. Thank you. Oh, gracias.
Thank you. My sister and her family are to be evicted May 1st. She is so desperate to find housing. Can I get your name and number? I need the number of the. Yes.
We'll definitely provide that to you at the end of the meeting or in the back. Thank you.
One of you guys have it, you could give it to her. Okay, thank you guys very much. Councilmember, you had a comment, question?
Well, when you were talking about I want to move away from this a little bit.
Mhm.
When you were talking about the interpretation,
Mhm.
I thought that you were going to have on your slide, and I think it was the city that left it off, that there's a phone number that anyone can call for any information from the city. There's a Spanish speaker, a native Spanish speaker, or an English speaker who answer that phone all during business hours of the city. And the number is 805-654-7800. So any questions you have for the city, or you need to know how to reach someone else, that's the number to call, English or Spanish. When you first get answered, you'll be able to choose your language. Okay.
Thank you, Liz, for that. Okay, and then we're gonna move forward into our formal presentation. So first up, we have the School Canyon Road project, which will be presented by Kevin Harberson on behalf of Ravello. Thank you. You can take this out if you need.
Thanks, Helen. Hey, everybody. Good evening. I appreciate you having me here tonight. My name is Kevin Harbison. I'm representing Ravello Holdings. We're actually looking at submitting a proposal to the city, which we haven't done yet, for a new housing development just behind the Solona Heights property. And I have some information on the slides that shows exactly where that is. Just a little background on myself. I've actually been a resident of Ventura County since 2014. I live in Port Hueneme currently. I started my professional career in the Marine Corps, got out and got into real estate development. So I've been in development on the residential side for market rate, and also 100% affordable housing developments for over about 20 years. I don't know if we have the slide presentation. No, okay. So we'll bring the slides up. I'll run through this pretty fast. I mean, the point of being here is just so that we put a face to a name, and as we go through the process, it's going to be long and collaborative. Obviously, we're going to be getting input from the city. We also like to meet the community right away and open up a dialogue about what we're planning to do and get input to come to a development that everybody would be happy with. Ravello Holdings is actually a family company. The owner is a gentleman named Phil Ram. His kids work for the company. I started working with him at about 2020. Really good company, high quality development. Again, market rate up to luxury down to 100% affordable, from 30% to 80% AMI. On some of the affordable projects. But they've been around the area for quite a while. in Ventura County specifically. I'm going to talk about a couple of projects that they've done in the area more recently. If I can get the next slide. So here are some kind of area projects that the first one isn't in the area, but I put that up there to highlight. That's actual a detached rental project that is single family detached, which is pretty unique. Don't see a lot of that in California. But the other ones are in Ventura, Oxnard, Santa Barbara, kind of in the area. Most recently, and I'll highlight two of those if I can get the next slide. The cannery right down the road here. They completed that a few years back. That's a mixed use development. It was 80 units total. And obviously sustainable development, solar, low flow toilets, all the sustainable. We're actually moving into all electric communities now. Really trying to stop production of greenhouse gas and that kind of thing in our development. So cannery is right here in Ventura. And then on the next slide, the more recent project is the gallery in Oxnard off of Ventura, down by the River Ridge Golf Course. That's 152 units. They were single family detached, and then some cluster product that included duplexes, and then smaller detached that had a little smaller backyards and a little bit more affordable. Next slide. So I kind of want to orient to this particular piece of property. It's up the avenue, like I said, behind the school or the Solona Heights community. It's about 17 acres. You can flip to the next slide, please. This is a little bit closer. So that's the piece. It's like a triangle. It used to be a oil storage, above ground storage tanks for the oil field that's up the canyon. And that was, those were removed quite a while ago and vacated. It includes, if you notice, there's a little piece of School Canyon that's actually part of the property. That's a private property, and that extends all the way out to the avenue. Next slide. And that's a little bit bigger or closer view of the property. The developable area would be in the triangular piece. There's, you can see the remnants of the storage tanks that were removed. So there is some, oil contamination that remains on the property that will have to be dealt with in the cleanup before development will be allowed. So I wanted to also draw the attention to the current land use designation of this piece of property. So the city's general plan has this designated as neighborhood low, which allows up to 8 units to the acre. And we thought it was important in our conceptual planning to respect that, and also respect the Solona Heights neighborhood, and try to introduce a development that would be blend nicely. In other words, not too dense and out of place for the area, because this is detached lot, single family detached primarily. So with that, on the next slide, this is our initial concept. This is very, very preliminary. This is something that we will be submitting to the city through their one-stop process, which is a preliminary application process that will allow us to get comments and feedback from the city on the plan. Good and bad things that that they would like to see, that maybe we haven't thought about in the design. In addition to that, like I said, we'll be running through an entitlement process to get the project through the city for approval. And in this case, that would be the processing of a tentative map application, and then going through the CEQA process, the California Environmental Quality Act process, where all the impacts, potential impacts of the project will have to be studied by law and deemed to be less than significant, or we'd have to mitigate those to make them less than significant. We'd have to go through that. But in addition to that, like most communities, and what we like to do, there's going to be tremendous community outreach, and we'll have multiple meetings. Some people call them scoping meetings. We'd like to call them community meetings, but it's where the community gets a chance to come in and voice their opinions and concerns to help us shape this as it goes through the process. A lot of times on these developments, we have a vision in our brain of what we'd like to do, but by the time we get to the actual approved project, it can look a lot different based on the feedback from the city, community, you know, things that we learn on our own as we're going through the process too. So again, the purpose of the meeting today is just have a chance to introduce myself to you and for you to meet me. And also, we are open book. We'd love to hear from anybody that has any thoughts about this. So I'm going to leave my information with Helen. You can contact me anytime. Like I said, I'm local. I don't mind meeting with folks, you know, for coffee or whatever. I'm here to listen. So with that, that's my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions.
Hi, my name is Marilyn. My husband's an architect, so I've seen a lot of different plans. No, they're not. From my point of view, I've taken interior design classes. So on these kind of development plans, I could see 4 different designs up there. But up in Sacramento and across the country, places like this about having green space, park, community center for themselves, a pool and all. I'm not seeing that in here.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. We actually, right now, we got this at 72 units, and the different colors are actually different lot sizes. So some of the lots are, you know, 5,000 square foot lots. Some of them are 3,500 square foot lots. So they vary in size, and we try to show that on the color. As you come in, the primary access of the community would be off of Cedar. And then there'll be a secondary emergency access down School Canyon in case of a need of evacuation. That area in the middle there is kind of the open space right now. We're actually looking at removing some lots and density to make a nicer area for a recreation center, pool, park. And then down on this location here, that's designated for low impact design. So we can't allow any storm flows off the site. They have to be put back in the ground. And those are great areas to do parks, passive parks and things like that. So this is a really engineering kind of diagram. I wish I had something that was a little more artistic to show what kind of open space we're providing, but that's an excellent point. And that's something that's important for us to include. Single family detached, 2-story. There could potentially be an option of adding a junior accessory dwelling unit to some of the units. Accessory dwelling units are not allowed. This is a high fire severity area. So by city ordinance, those aren't allowed, but junior accessory dwelling units is something we're thinking about, but we haven't made a decision on that yet.
Willing to work with the city if they give you enough incentives to come back to the Westside Community Council and give opportunities to some of the people losing their homes in this neighborhood to purchase or rent in this project?
Yeah, we actually, you know, obviously there's the inclusionary housing ordinance in the city. So 15% of the community must be available for low income applicants. But we also do 100% affordable projects. We're doing a number of them up in Antelope Valley right now, and those go all the way down to 30% AMI. There could be a potential to explore something like that. We haven't made a decision either way on that yet, though.
Okay, thank you.
Now that does, just so everybody's aware, a lot of those low income housing projects, the financing components are through bonds, what they call tax credit bonds that are issued by the state and on the federal level. And you have to go through an approval process, and there's awards for those bonds every, I believe, 2 or 3 times a year. They're very competitive. So getting the bond awards is quite difficult, but we have experience doing that too. So. Got a lot of questions.
I'm curious. I live in that area. In fact, my place is like 15 feet from Schoolhouse Road. And that road is traveled consistently 24/7, all hours of the night. How do you propose to keep that kind of exhaust from diesels and gas and the road noise to not interfere with that? And how do you propose to get people not going into Schoolhouse Road from Cedar? I guess you're going to expand Cedar.
Right. So yeah, the access would be off Cedar, the School Canyon Road access. Our proposal is to use that in emergency only, for emergency only. So that would not be a regularly traveled road.
It can't be with all the oil rig traffic.
The oil rig traffic that goes up and
Yeah,
down the road.
it's enormous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to move apartments because of that, because of the fumes and the gas and the dust and all that great, wonderful, stupid stuff.
Yeah, we're concerned about trying to bring residents up that to access the community as well.
So that used to be part of Willett Ranch?
I'm sorry.
That was part of Willett Ranch?
It was actually that road, it still belongs to this piece of property, but there are some easement holders that have right of access to that road. And one of those is Era Energy, the oil company. But you can notice here, this is School Canyon Road here. And you can see how far off that we're pulled off of School Canyon in terms of our development. That's because the easement holders on that road have the right to expand the road along that property up to 100 feet. So we had to stay outside of their right to expand the road.
How do you propose to stop people from going Cedar onto Schoolhouse Road?
Oh, well, we would gate it. So it'd be an emergency access gate. Yes. Yeah. So fire and emergency services would have access. But community would not access that regularly.
And what do you do with, I'm sorry, what do you do with the oil that was, how do you work with that, with the property that was, all the oil containers were sitting on that property?
Yeah, so the property is impacted by oil for sure. We've actually sent environmental consulting firm out to study. We've drilled underneath the tank areas and actually tested and quantified the amount of impacted soil. We'd have to remediate that by actually removing that contaminated soil off-site until it doesn't remain. And then go through an agency to get what's called a no further action that demonstrates that we've removed all the contamination from the site.
And just so I'm right, you are with the company that wants to buy the property to support the building?
Correct. I think this gentleman, and then I'll go to the back.
One sec, Ron. Okay, we'll do 2 more questions, and then Kevin, if you are available to take questions in the back room afterwards. Okay, perfect.
It'd be great to see a linear park along the creek there. That would be really great access to relative nature in that neighborhood. But with all the oil development, most of the day, nature is kind of suppressed. And then there's some interesting micro remediation that might be possible to feed the beneficial fungi in the soil and supplement them, and degrade the petroleum waste on site. And then Art Ludwig, Oasis Design up in Santa Barbara, has come up with some designs for ADU units made of clay or adobe that actually serve as fire shelters, in case of fire coming through versus, being a source of fire.
Thanks.
Leave it to Ron with some great ideas. I love those. I fully agree. I actually just wanted to make a couple comments just for
Sure.
consideration.
Sure.
One is if this were to be, something that comes about, there is a lot of movement and traction gaining at a property across the way that could have the potential of being a community benefit area. Just suggesting possible partnership influence, to address green space, maybe, anyways, partnership and collaboration of resources.
Certainly.
You know what I mean? The other thing is, water pressure has really diminished for the housing that is up on the hill once Solano Heights came in. So I just putting it out there that there could be a lot of more issues, and just to be cognizant of that, how that's going to affect
Yeah.
the
We'll
existing residents.
We'll have to do a water needs assessment. And if there's any deficiencies in the water system, the city more than likely would condition us to do improvements to the system. So, and that can range from, I've had to build storage tanks, add pumps to pump stations and a number of different improvements. So when we get through the entitlement process and we figure out, what some of the impacts are, including water pressure that could be deficient and not supply or support a new development, that may be a mitigation criteria that gets imposed on us for sure.
And did you say you had a business card, or you have something?
I
for us to
don't, but I'm gonna
contact you?
leave all my information with Helen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other folks in the room who have questions? If you have questions, put your hands up. So oh, behind me. Okay, so one behind me, one in front of me, one over there. Okay. All right, we'll take the questions. It will probably impact the reporting streetlight outages presentation. So, I'm happy to take the questions, but we may need to end up moving our last formal presentation. FYI.
Okay. Not alone on this property is on the other side of 33. A lot of those old buildings have been destroyed, whether they're back in city hands or companies, whether that would be a good place to put housing.
I mean, we're always looking for, good opportunities to develop housing. I mean, that's what we're in the business to do. So any of those underutilized parcels we'd be interested in looking at for sure. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question, two questions actually. Have you started or aren't you required to do a EIR, environmental impact report? And the other question is, how about traffic increase on the avenue?
Yes, sir. Two questions. So the first question would be, yes, we're required to go through the secret process, and the city is going to make the determination whether we do a full environmental impact report or we do what's called a mitigated negative declaration, which is similar, but it's a little less intense than a full EIR. But all the actual impact criteria is the same. So we still have to study, water, sewer, greenhouse gas emissions. Traffic is one of the things that I'm sure we're going to have to do a traffic study to show what the traffic impact of a new community with new cars that'll be affecting the areas. We'd have to go through that as part of CEQA. Absolutely.
Hi, thank you. This sounds like an awesome opportunity for some people. If anybody in the room would like to stay up to date, do you have a newsletter that someone can sign up for, or do you recommend just visiting the webpage often?
Yeah, I mean, you can visit the webpage, but what we'll do is when we actually start the formal application process and submit our one-stop to the city, we're going to start in community engagement. And what I've done in the past, most recently, personally in Camarillo, where we developed a senior community over by the old seminary. is I like to start a community engagement, dynamic community engagement list where folks can sign up and send information or questions. We respond, and then also provide information about any kind of scoping meeting or just meetings that are coming up to discuss progress on the project. We will get that in place as soon as we're ready to submit formally to the city. Any other questions? Okay, well.
Wait,
hey,
oh,
for-
one more.
Okay.
Are these units going to be for sale or for rent?
You know, we haven't made that determination either. We could do both, and we do both. We do rent, detached housing, and we do for sale. We haven't really come to a determination on which direction we want to go. And the reason is there's a lot of volatility in the marketplace. Everybody's aware of with interest rates, you know, going up, doubling in the matter of 6 months. So things are very fluid right now. And I think we need to get a little further along before we figure out what makes the most sense for us.
Makes sense. Appreciate it.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
All right, next up is our presentation on overdose prevention, opioids and fentanyl. As part as a countywide effort to prevent overdose prevention, outreach, and education, Bright will be presenting on opioid awareness, including safety and risk, fentanyl trends, medication safety at home, and community resources. And this is presented by Miss Amy Dugan on behalf of Bright. Thank you.
Good evening. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight on behalf of Bright, a local nonprofit that is building resilience and inclusion through engagement. I'm a consultant. I'm also here as a neighbor and as a parent. Yes. Next slide. So tonight we're going to talk about opioids and fentanyl, the risks and the harms, some of our local consequences, our crisis response and what you can do, overdose prevention, as well as what some of our county resources are. Next slide, please. So what are opioids? Opioids are drugs that work in the brain to provide relief from severe or chronic pain. They range from strong prescription painkillers like hydrocodone or oxycodone to illegal fentanyl, fake pills, and heroin. Even when they're used as prescribed, opioid medications may lead to substance use disorder. Misuse may lead to dependency and addiction, and more than 5 days of use can lead to dependence. With dependence and addiction, the danger of overdose increases. Overdose is most common when tolerance is low, during sickness, when using alone, and when drugs are mixed. Next slide, please. So what are some opioid street names? The list on the left that's bold and underlined, those are some local street names that are being used. Our Ventura County Sheriff's Office provided those names, like Junk, Oxy, Oxycontin, Blues, 30. Those are the terminology that you really want to be aware of, as they may show up in text messages or on other social media. Next slide, please. Fentanyl. So fentanyl has been around since the 1960s. It is a synthetic opioid. In its prescription form, it's medically used to treat severe or long-term pain in patients who need continuous relief. Prescription fentanyl is not usually linked to most synthetic opioid harms or overdoses. And as the corporal said, it is a highly, highly potent drug. It's 100 times stronger than morphine, and it's 50 times stronger than heroin. Next slide, please. So these images from the DEA exhibit manufacture of fentanyl. The top image is controlled. That is a regulated, clean pharmaceutical environment. The bottom is an illicit lab, and those conditions are clearly unregulated. Next slide, please. Illicitly manufactured and sold fentanyl. This is a very dense slide. There are a lot of information here because there are so many dangers associated. Fentanyl, illicit fentanyl, is one of the most common drugs associated with overdose deaths in the United States. It's very cheap to produce, and because of its potency, it's easily mixed with other drugs that can be snorted, swallowed, smoked, injected without the fentanyl being detected. Why is fentanyl being used? Well, it's mixed in with other substances. And because it's so cheap and so potent, for example, if it's mixed with methamphetamine, just a little bit of expensive methamphetamine is mixed with potent fentanyl, and it's a much cheaper product. It's more highly addictive, cheaper for the distributor, but can be sold at a very high price. And again, makes it more competitive for those manufacturing. It can be in either pill form or powder form. And in that powder form, for example, that's what can be mixed with heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, and maybe now you've been hearing about xylazine, which is a veterinary medicine, an FDA veterinary sedative that is now being laced with fentanyl. Cannabis laced with fentanyl is rarer compared to pressed pills or fake pills that you're hearing about and drugs that are in powder form. But we need to be very clear that fentanyl can be in any illicit drug. It's showing up in all kinds of illicit drugs. It's highly concentrated, so it can be packaged in very small quantities, which makes it easier to transport, easier to sell. It takes effect very fast. It wears off sooner, which also makes it highly addictive and harder to kick. There are also fentanyl analogs, chemical cousins, that are often more toxic, like carfentanil, which is a veterinary medicine again. And because of its potency, pharmaceutical fentanyl is measured in micrograms, extremely small amounts, and only 2 milligrams of fentanyl are considered a lethal dose, only 2 milligrams. Next slide, please. So these images right here depict the dose that can be a lethal dose. So just think about that tiny, tiny amount. Next slide, please. This is a really staggering image. This is how many people died from fentanyl in 2022. That SoFi Stadium holds 70,000 people. Next slide, please. So what are some fentanyl street names, illegal fentanyl street names? Again, on the left, those are names that are used here more locally. Butter, Fent, Fenty, Play-Doh, names to be aware of, again, if they show up in any social media and emails or text messages. Next slide, please. So fentanyl disguised in fake pills, that is happening with great frequency, and they're frequently showing up as round blue pills or other brightly colored pills. You've maybe heard of rainbow fentanyl. The most common counterfeit pills are prescription opioids like oxycodone, OxyContin, Percocet, hydrocodone, Vicodin, alprazolam or Xanax, or stimulants like amphetamines or Adderall. If users are believing that they're holding and purchasing actual prescription pills, there's an even greater danger of overdose. Some, especially youth, believe that all medicine is safe, and they're unaware that a prescription-looking pill is laced or contaminated. The images, whoops, one more, sorry. The images at the bottom show a real and a fake example of oxycodone and Xanax. I know that the first time I saw this image, I reversed them. I thought that the fake pill was actually the real one. It's pressed better. You see the M a lot better. It seems like that would be the legitimate pill, but it's not. Next slide, please. It's really important to note that you cannot see, smell, or taste fentanyl. Uneven distribution of fentanyl in counterfeit pills can mean that drugs from the same source greatly vary in how much fentanyl is in them. Even if users know they're not actually prescription pills, there's still no way to know how much fentanyl a pill might contain without actually testing it. Batches vary. So when it's being illegally manufactured and it's all being scrambled together, you don't know how much. There could be a batch of 10 pills. 6 of them have a lethal dose of fentanyl, and 4, won't kill you necessarily. 1 pill is all it takes to overdose. Just 1 pill. And it's happening with staggering frequency. A child might order a pill thinking, I have a big test tomorrow. I'm feeling anxious. I know that people are taking Percocet and buy that off of Snapchat or Instagram. That's not a party overdose. That's not an addiction casualty. That is 1 pill taken 1 time. It's often sold via social media, online and e-commerce platforms, on apps that are popular with teens who believe they're buying something safe for that anxiety or depression. And it's available to anyone with a smartphone. Next slide, please. These are some examples of emojis that are used by drug dealers, some signals, some fake prescription drugs, and other drugs. I have had law enforcement show me how prevalent these are in online platforms and conversations. You see these emojis, so it's a really good idea to familiarize yourself with some of them. Next slide, please. We clearly are experiencing a national crisis. The Drug Enforcement Administration does lab testing, and their recent lab testing revealed that 6 out of every 10 pills contained fentanyl, a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. And that was up from 4 out of 10 pills just a few months before. The Centers for Disease Control estimates that by 2029, over 1.2 million people will die from fentanyl and other opioids if no action is taken. Record quantities of fentanyl seized in 2021 by the DEA. It was enough to kill every single American. And at the end of 2022, the DEA seized more than 50 million fentanyl pills, fake fentanyl pills. And I had to keep double checking that figure, 50 million pills. That was more than double what was seized in 2021. And that was in all US states. No state is immune. Next slide, please. So what are some of our local consequences? What are we seeing in Ventura County? We're definitely seeing that our county, with prescription painkiller abuse, and fake pills, rising opioid overdoses, are part of this nationwide crisis. 1 in 5 Ventura County teens have abused prescription drugs. Over 50% get them from friends and family. In 2021, opioids were prescribed 421,649 times in the county, and the average number of opioid pills dispensed per resident was 31. From 2016 to 2021, there were 653 opioid-related deaths. And from 2019 to 2020 alone, fentanyl contributed significantly to a 45% increase in opioid-related overdoses. In the past year, local fentanyl overdose deaths rose by 88%. Next slide, please. So what can be done? In terms of prescription opioids, lock up and secure your medications. You can purchase a medicine lockbox. Please consider what is in your medicine cabinet. Oftentimes you have been prescribed opioids for pain or after surgeries, and youth They go to people's houses and they check medicine cabinets. Adults do as well. Do not ignore labels. Do not experiment or mix medications with alcohol or other drugs. And please do not share pills. Never take medicine that was not prescribed to you by your own doctor. Know the dangers and accessibility of these deadly drugs that are being found online, and talk to family and friends about the dangers. Vacations are often a vulnerable time. Only trust medications from a verified US pharmacy. And please properly dispose of expired and unused medication. Our county makes this very easy. There's a prescription drug disposal program, and there are also drug take back days. You can go also to a police department or law enforcement agencies, and no questions asked, drop off your prescriptions there to be disposed. Next slide, please. What can be done around illicit opioids? A 2020 youth survey showed that only 1/3 to 1/2 of youth know that fake pills are manufactured with fentanyl. You can test this out by talking to youth you know and asking them. It's really frightening. We need to close that knowledge gap. We need to engage youth especially, and others. We need to talk and ask questions. Knowing about fentanyl most certainly helps people stay safe. And then we also need to educate ourselves like you're doing tonight. Thank you. And we need to dispel some of the myths that exist. For example, many people think that you can overdose simply by touching fentanyl. Some of the news articles have made it seem that way with law enforcement. You cannot overdose simply by touching fentanyl. It must be introduced into your bloodstream or a mucous membrane to feel the effects. And while there are fentanyl patches that can be prescribed, that's not the, those are used for pain management. Those are not the formulation that are typically cut into other substances. Next slide, please. And as the corporal touched on, you can learn about naloxone. Naloxone, or the brand name Narcan, is a safe and legal antidote to reverse opioid overdose, but it only works for opioid overdoses. It will not help with a stimulant or an alcohol overdose. It has no psychoactive effects. It is harmless. So if you're administering it because you think someone might be overdosing and they're not, and you administer it accidentally, you do not need to worry about any harms associated with that. It's most common in a nasal spray. And what it is an opioid receptor antagonist. It acts like a bully. It basically blocks the brain opioid receptors and pushes off the fentanyl. It kicks it off. It's just like using an EpiPen for an allergy attack. Opioid overdoses result in the respiratory system slowing down to the point of not breathing. This usually takes a little bit of time. So administering naloxone saves lives. You're buying that person a little bit of time until emergency medical services can arrive. And most often, naloxone needs to be administered more than one time. One dose will not do it to completely combat the overdose. It wears off in about 20 to 90 minutes, and depending upon how much is in the system, it requires additional doses. Most professional first responders and emergency departments are equipped with naloxone. Schools are also becoming equipped. And we have some local data as well. From 2015 to 2021, naloxone was used by Ventura County first responders 3,784 times. From 2014 to 2021, 1,457 lives in Ventura County were saved by naloxone. It definitely works. Bystanders, friends, family can also be trained and equipped. It's available at pharmacies with no prescription. There are rescue kits available through the county. You do need to meet those qualifications to get those free kits. And it is soon going to be available for everyone over the counter. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for your sensitivity. Yeah, I would say, it might be a good idea to step out. I think if the content is intense. Thank you very much. Yes, I would, you beat me to it. I was going to say that this is intense. This is actual body cam footage from our Ventura County Sheriff's Office. And it shows some overdoses that were not fatal. So again, it's intense. The county sheriff department asked that this is not recorded. Stop there for a moment. So the sergeant who shot that body cam footage, this is his contact information should you have any questions and want to follow up. It is fairly unusual, an overdose setting where you have 3 individuals like that. Thankfully, everyone again did survive. But that sergeant shared with us that this is a daily occurrence. They're getting calls on a daily basis and sometimes multiple times a day for overdoses within our county. Next slide, please. Pardon? And Narcan, exactly. And they administered Narcan. That is what saved those 3 individuals' lives. So very important to help save lives by learning warning signs, both of misuse and overdose. In terms of misuse, look for changes in someone's physical appearance, behavioral changes, loss of interest or motivation, unexplained pills or paraphernalia. And very important with overdose, warning signs are tiny pupils, limp body, unable to talk, pale gray or bluish skin, lips and nails, cold and clammy skin. Breathing is very slow or is stopped altogether. The person is extremely sleepy or passing out and unresponsive to stimuli. So you're calling the person's name, you're shaking them, you're doing a sternal rub and nothing is working. And then the person might be snoring or choking or making gurgling sounds. You were able to hear that in that body cam footage of one of the individuals. Next slide, please. So the last couple of slides, you don't need to take a photo or anything. There are pamphlets on the table that provide all the Ventura County resources. You can go to the next one if you'd like, please. As well as knock out a tooth, as well as treatment and services specific to opioids and fentanyl. And that is it. I am happy to answer some questions. I really thank you for your attention and for being a part of sharing this information with our community. Thank you.
Oh, I just was wondering if I could make a request to go back to the slide that has Ventura County stats. It's kind of fast.
Sure. They also are at the website Ventura County Responds.
Okay.
So you can get all
Same.
those. Yes.
Same. Okay,
They're all
thank you.
right from that. But I'm also happy to share.
Okay, any questions in the room? Are there any questions online? For you? Okay.
If Narcan was administered and it wasn't a fentanyl overdose, do you do more harm than good or?
No, it will counteract a fentanyl or any other type of opioid overdose, but only opioids. It does not work on any other non-opioid drugs, but it will not cause any harm in any way.
Okay, so if it was given to somebody that was non-opioid, it wouldn't.
If it was an alcohol overdose and you gave the person Narcan, no harm caused at all.
Okay. Any other questions in the audience members we have out there? I don't see any hands on Zoom going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you very much, Amy,
Thank
for
you so much
presenting tonight.
for staying so late, everyone.
Thank you. And this is recorded, so the people here, if you want to share with others, please do. We do have just a couple more items. We're moving to our open comment period. So if anyone has anything they'd like to say at the close of the meeting, this would be the time now. I don't know if there's anyone on Zoom. I'll check. I'm not seeing anyone in the room. I'm not seeing one on Zoom. Okay. Oh, okay. We got one in the room.
Me están mandando a preguntar varias vecinas si los programas que tiene la ciudad de Ventura para los jóvenes o niños del verano están muy costosos y si hay un plan para la gente de bajos ingresos, si puede ser un poco menos para que sus niños puedan asistir a esas actividades. ¿Cómo podemos hacerle?
I'm getting some messages from families that are interested in the activities presented for the summer by the city. In some cases, the cost is too high. And I'm being asked if there's a sliding scale or if there's a different plan for families that may qualify under, lower resources.
For Campos right now, if she would have any insights on that, or Marco maybe. One of our, either a council member or a board member has or will have the information.
Should repeat the question. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to look more into that, but I would definitely get back to you on that unless Councilmember Campos knows that.
Generally have a sliding scale, but so if it's something being held at West Park or Kellogg Park or Deanza, one of the West Side places, generally the price can be discounted, especially if there's more than one child, if there's 2 or 3. If they have a question about a specific program, if you can text it to me, then I'll make sure and find out for you.
Oh,
Thank you for that question.
thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll just go ahead and announce the next meeting will be occurring on May 3rd, another Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Otherwise, thank you all very much for coming and staying late tonight. And I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.